Warriors, and welcome back to vocaltrainingwarrior.com. Did you think you were at a different site because of the guitar? Well, this guitar is going to teach us a very important lesson about our singing mechanism today. This is called an acoustic guitar. It makes its own sound with this gigantic box you see here, this is a great guitar. It makes its own great sound. As opposed to a guitar called an electric guitar. If I go out of the shot here for a minute, just hang in there. I'm coming right back. And this here is what is commonly known as an electric guitar. Now, an electric guitar needs what we call an amplifier to make sound. Because if we just play it without the amplifier, it really doesn't make much sound, does it? That's because it has no resonating chambers. It's just a solid body. And these little electromagnetic pickups pick up the vibrations of the sound. And that little vibration, electronic vibration, goes into an amplifier, which is down here off screen. I'm going to rev this thing up right here, turn on my amplifier. And all of a sudden, we're going to get all kinds of sound. Wow. I love firing up my old electric and making all kinds of sound. But as we can see, we have an acoustic guitar and we have an electric guitar that needs an amplifier. Both of them need an amplifier. It's just that one is natural, and the other is not, okay? So what is our voice mostly like? It's mostly like the one that already has an amplifier, a natural amplifier, and that is the guitar. So let's talk about that. After our sound leaves the larynx, the voice box, and the bzzz, the buzzing sound is heard, the larynx is this incredibly small little thing. It's amazing that you can even hear me now with the volume that you hear. It's an absolute miracle. But let's talk about it, how that happens. The little sound resonates out of the little tiny voice box of the larynx, those two little vocal cords buzzing in there, and then it enters the throat. And one of the great things about my techniques is my techniques result in a throat that is not closed. And many of you know that when you get to high notes and you get to other registers, one of the biggest complaints you got is here. The throat starts crunching up. And I solve all that, and we do not sing with a closed throat here. Because if we have a closed throat, a tight throat, just think that a sound that emanates from the larynx, the first place it goes is in the throat, and that little outside the trachea, into the nasopharynx and the pharynx, which is that first resonating space out in the throat, in the back of the mouth, if we want to call it that. So sound begins resonating. So you can imagine if your throat is tight, 50%, let's say, than normal, the initial sound coming out of you is going to be 50%. So the fundamental sound is half. So once it gets into the resonating chambers in our head, which we're going to talk about right now, it's already attenuated or cut down. Not good at all. That's why my singers perform with power, whether they're speakers, actors, or singers. Now, what's the next space that the sound goes into? Well, we could say that the nasal resonance passage, okay? And after it gets in there, it buzzes around. If we want to get a nasal sound, we've all done that, right? Kind of a telephone operator, close your mouth all the way. The next thing I want you to do, we've already done that, okay, is now talk like you have a cold. Talk like you have a cold. Oh my God. And what kind of tone do you hear now? You don't hear any of that nasally resonance. You hear a low tone like this. And what's happening when I want to make that low tone and sound like I have a cold, I am acting like my nose is full of junk, like when I have a cold, right? And there's no resonating going on up there. And I'm closing my soft palate in the back, so sound vibrations are not going up into my nasal resonance passage. They're just going into my mouth. And what do I get? I get low tone, right? Low tone. Oh. But if I go up into my nose, I get high rows. Now, who's heard of treble and bass? We've all heard this. This has been on stereos since, God, the 50s probably, definitely the 60s. And we still have that on our high-tech electronics that we have these days. Well, treble is the sound. It's the high frequencies. And bass is the low sound. Now we get big amplifiers to push the bass, and so the wheels fall off our cars when we're in the intersection. It's really ridiculous, isn't it? But anyways, so here's this great thing that we have as a vocal instrument. We have the ability to adjust our resonance. So if we think treble is in our nose and bass in our mouth, just think how we can balance those cavities by what? Our jaw. Because the nose, the resonant space in the nasal resonant space inside here doesn't change. It doesn't move around. As long as it's not full of junk and mucus, what have you, it's going to function just fine. It's the mouth that moves up and down. And the mouth is where we get our style. That's where we get our style. You know, styles are not as different as you may think. And we got the rock crowd, and we got, you know, this pop crowd, and we got the opera crowd, and we got the musical theater crowd. We got all these crowds, right? And a lot of them can't stand each other for some stupid reason. When you really think about it, the difference between singing country and singing opera or musical theater has everything to do with our power and our projection, and also about this, about our amplifier. Because if I want to sing like that, like in musical theater, well, I have a different approach with my amplifier. If I want to sing, well, I'm down in the country and I'm feeling kind of slow, all I'm doing is adjusting what? I'm not adjusting anything different as far as my air projection. I'm adjusting my mask, as they call it. I'm adjusting the treble and bass in here. So that's really all it is. So just think about this. You've been given a wonderful gift. Not only your voice, but one of the main parts is your amplifier. And the amplifier is where we get most of our style. And you need to learn how to use it and adjust those resonating cavities so you can be a competent vocalist who has mastered your voice. Now, if you need more information on that, there's other videos on my website. And also, my brand new book has just been released in softcover under contract with American Book Publishing. It's on sale for only $19.95. All my secrets are in there. You can find that at my website, vocaltrainingwarrior.com. I highly recommend that you get that book. I hope you enjoyed your lesson today. Thank you for watching vocaltrainingwarrior.com.